Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Project Xpack. The last time you seen the car, we were doing the engine bay, prepping it and getting it painted. So now that that's all done, the next stage we needed to move on to was undercoating the car. So over the past few weeks we've been a wee bit held back, but now we're back on to the project. Just some of the eyes upon work just wasn't ready, so I wanted to finish off wee bits and pieces on it. Now I've got that done, I'm happy enough to go ahead with our undercoat. So through this episode we'll take you through the undercoating process. So yeah, as you can see, a lot of our masking up has been done here, so that's most of it all out of the road. We've got our engine bay, it's pretty well masked up because we don't want any hanging on in it. So just to do these here, just cover these in our yards up, take the wheels off, jack it up, put it in axle stands, and that should be that ready to go. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put an isolator on the car first, just to seal the old paintwork, because we don't want any solvent attacks here. So we've got here from U-Paul, it's called Barcode. So this is pretty good stuff. I would use this quite frequently on the likes of old cars, because old acrylic paints on cars from years ago, like for example old Fords, some old Fords obviously have seen a lot of paintwork. Most of them in their lifetime have seen bits and pieces of paintwork, so we don't know what sort of hidden reaction is in that old paintwork. We don't want it reacting till our base coat solvent. So what I do is we use an isolator first, and then we just apply the isolator in a light coat, maybe 2 light coats, and then afterwards we can go with the primer. And we're going to mix our primer at a 5:1 ratio to give us a good fill out on all that filler work on the car. And after that we should see how the car looks. I mean, there could be possibly a few bits just to go over, which there most likely will be. And when we get that out here, after this we'll get the doors and the bonnet and the boot lid in undercoat too, and that should be that. And after that is done, we're going to complete the inside of the car. Obviously we can't really see inside at the minute, but we'll get the inside prepped and we'll get it painted inside the Desert Island Blue. And that should be that looking well.
You cannot seem to get to me. I am back with a stolen identity. You know I see through anything. I'm a one-man army with a bitter sting. You give me no reasons. I'm broken to pieces. There's no one who can erase.
Okay folks, so one quick wee tip is always drain your compressor before you go to paint or undercoat, especially before you go to undercoat. Even though you may have a regulator on to filter or regulate any of the water so that no moisture gets through the airline, it is still very important. Even though we had to drain compressors daily, it's very important that you have the compressor drained before undercoat, because what can happen is if you have moisture in your airline, moisture will go through onto the undercoat, and then when we paint it'll be a lovely job, but in about 6 months, a year's time, we'll start getting what you call micro blisters in the paint, and that's basically the moisture coming right through the paint again. And the only way to eliminate that is to take the whole car back to bare metal, and that's something you don't want to do. That's work you don't want. So over the head of maybe 5 minutes, always drain your compressor before undercoat or paint. By the way, If you're wondering, this isn't going to be the compressor we're using because this one's out of action currently at the minute, but will be back in action soon as we get the motor repaired. Okay, so here's some of the tools that we need to do the job here. Any old 1.8mm suction fed gun will do. That's what I use. I prefer to use these rather than a gravity fed gun for undercoating. I just feel they hold more paint and put out more fluid, but everybody has their own opinion. This is an old school DeVilbiss JGA, so they're a very good gun if maintained properly. So this is our isolator. Again, just open the lid, store it up, give it a good store for a few minutes, and then pour it straight in. It's ready to go. So we're using this Maxmare filler undercoat, and their combination is 5:1. So that's 5 parts paint, 1 part hardener. So we'll just show you a bit about this, how this works. Some people mix their paint using scales through weight, which is probably a better idea to do, but we're a bit old school here and we're just using our traditional mixing sticks, which is very easy to use. So it'll show you on the stick here. You can get these in all different, you can get them in 2:1, 3:1, 4:1 and 5:1. This is a 4:1 and 5:1 stick, and it's very easy to use. So if you look here closely, if I can get a close up on the camera here, this line here represents the paint, so that's 5 parts paint. This line here, which is our second line, represents the hardener, which is 1 part hardener. So that's 5 parts paint, 1 part hardener. These three wee lines here represent the thinner. So the first line represents 10%, 20% and then 30%. That's every line is 10%, so it's 10%, 20%, 30%. Usually I prefer to use about 15% thinner when I'm using the undercoat, just to wet it up a wee bit so that it's not too thick and it flows pretty good. So that's a bit about mixing the paint. So that's the car in isolator. We're now ready to move on to the undercoat, and as I say, the undercoat just goes straight over the top of the isolator. There's no need whatsoever to sand it. Just what you're doing if you were sanding it is you're taking away your isolator again. So the design of the product is for the undercoat to go straight over it. So here we go. So there's the car in undercoat. Very happy with the way the car is looking. I would say we give it a good 3 coats there and a few extra bits where we had done our filler work and eyes upon work, whatever you want to call it. So it's looking pretty good. I'm very happy with the way the kit is blended in. That was one thing I was concerned about, but I'm very happy, especially seeing the undercoat going on wet off the gun. So everything's looking good. The next stage will be to get the bonnet and the boot and the 2 doors in undercoat. So we'll have to get them done next, and then after that we're going to go inside and we're going to get inside ready and a flick of blue paint around it, and that should be lovely. And then on to the outside of the car again. There's a few bits and pieces of wee chips and stuff to be carried out and fixed, but overall very happy with the results to date. Okay guys, so that's the car now out on the shop floor. As you can see, it's a different colour now. Beforehand it was hard to tell if it was black, grey, red or green, but now it is all in one colour of a shade of grey primer. So as you can see here on this quarter panel here, where the kit actually meets the original panel, there's still slightly more work to do there than expected. So we'll get that into shape. It should look pretty good, and then what we'll do is when we get our filler work done there and every wee repair that we need to go over now, we'll go again and patch prime the car, all bits that needs done. In the meantime, we have the bonnet up, and what we're going to do with the bonnet is we're going to epoxy prime the bonnet, the boot and the doors. So we'll get that done here, and that's another bit done. Alright folks, so James is washing everything down there with pre-wipe. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to coat the bonnet and the boot, and then we're going to do the doors after later on. And we're going to do it in a white epoxy primer first. The epoxy primer has sort of a rust inhibitor in it, so it's good to do that first. And then what we'll do after the epoxy primer dries is we'll just rub it down to give the primer a grip with maybe a 240 grit, and then that should be that ready to go for primer.
Hear me or not over the extractor fan, but there's the bonnet now in epoxy. The tailgate is an epoxy. Its first coat's only a dust coat on it. So I've been out of action this last week because of a bad back. So many thanks to Diarmuid for looking after the whole video and thing. I mean, I haven't looked at the videos yet, but I'm sure they're going to be good. So next stage for these is to let this go off, and I believe then put some normal primer on, base coat, or undercoat, sorry, and then fill it all up and base coat and lacquer. So we're getting there. Listen, primer folks, happy days. As I said before there, many thanks to Diarmuid for doing the video, and for this episode I've been out of action, laid up in the house for the last week with a bad back, so just about able to limp down, get the wife to drive me down, get a bit of a video of her in primer. It's nice to see her all in one colour, well, largely all in one colour. A few wee repairs to do that you can see now she's primed. So, very happy man. You know, see she's taking shape. We've lifted the sunroof out of her to get it painted separately. Just need to be very careful when we're putting it back in to not scratch it. I think I did an earlier episode on how to adjust a sunroof, or how to fix it if it's not working, so I'll have to look back on that myself because I can't even remember anymore. Doors and stuff are all flatted back, ready to be primed. So we're getting there. In underneath the back arches still needs to be stone chipped, and then whenever he's doing the final paint it'll be done blue. So overall, very happy man. To finally see it in one colour, it's been a long time coming. Since last December I've been seeing it every day in the same green, white, every colour. So yeah, if you like what you're seeing, hit the subscribe button. As always, hit us a share on social media, and please do, if you see the links popping up on the left here for my social media channels, please do go and visit them. I'm a bit more active on there because, as you can understand, it doesn't take quite as long to put a video together for social media as it does to put a full half-an-hour long video together for YouTube. So yeah, hit me up on Instagram, on Facebook, and until the next one, which hopefully should be colour. Well, the next car related bit will be colour. Might be some wiring, depending on how my back goes. So thanks for tuning in as always, folks. Bye.